Welcome back to the art is always known as Alejandro. I am he, Shelley. And as you can see, we are starting this sketch with Wolfra. Real original name, guess what she is? Hey man, I was a kid when I created them, but let's get into this. And I did her in pencil, but I am going to show you digitally just how to block her with circles and lines. You know, people say I can only do stick figures, but stick figures are a good basis for starting your character drawings. You just can use some of those lines and stick pieces to kind of flesh out what you want here. Even just following my little pencil sketch, you could see what I was trying to do. Having her lean, and then the leg forms out of that. Too bad. Just your simple lines and circles. Now she has a different shaped face because she's a werewolf. So just kind of filling in these. This is something new, like in between the bicep area and the forearm. I've been just adding a little gap, and it's been helping me. Just adding that little gap between them, if you could see that. And just doing the rib cage, trying to get the idea. Rib cages, the bottom of the rib cages really line up with the bottom of the chest. They're like inches apart, so you got to keep that in mind. And just kind of giving a little shape, just this simple thing. So now I'm going to just erase it a little lightly, so you can still kind of see the lines we just did, plus the pencil underneath. Just so you have a little idea, like, okay, now I see it with the lines. And we'll jump into Wolfra. I drew her a little differently. I think I gave her bangs. Made her a little more cartoony. She is kind of a mix here. Slightly cartoony, but not too children cartoony. She's not going to be like a Smurf or Heathcliff or Garfield. She's going to be a little bit of a mix in between. So I was trying to make her look too realistic, and it wasn't working for me. I don't want her to look too wolfed out. I want her to be kind of like a pleasant looking wolf. Not too cuddly like... Did you remember seeing Wolfen back in the 80s? Werewolf movie? And Dee Wallace was a reporter investigating this cult of werewolves that lived in the woods somewhere. Spoiler alert. At the end of the movie, as she's escaping, she does get bitten. And she begins to transform into a wolf when she's doing a newscast. But the wolf she turns out to be such a cuddly little innocent thing. Like, why does she become a cuddly little wolf when everybody else turns into a scary wolf? Because she's the mom from E.T., that's why. Actually, I think Wolfen came out before. Don't quote me on that one, but I think it did. But not sure. Anyway, so I wanted her to look like she could be a superhero, but not too wolfed out. Now, even this digital pencil changes. And her ears were kind of flipping me out because I don't want her to look too feline. So there's a funny mix, like werewolf ears kind of can either have these two close together pointy things going on, or they can also come to the side, but the side thing made her look more like a bat. So let's not do that. The idea for Wolfra? I don't know if any of you guys remember this. Back in the 70s, I think I discussed that Peter Pan Records / Power Records released comic book stories you can listen to on a record with voice actors and sound effects and music. And an original story penciled by the late, great Neil Adams had Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and a werewolf. For some reason, Dracula was a blonde. And there is a separate story that Neil Adams, it's a little more graphic, but even for the book and record you could purchase, it was a pretty scary story. There was some heavy themes, and even there's Vincent von Frankenstein, who is the nephew of Victor, who escapes with his fiancée. And then they don't know that Dracula's Dracula. He just seems like this guy that helps them out and goes to their castle. He abducts Erica. Erica is the fiancée and threatens that Vincent must create another monster. He does, and the monster throws Erica out of a window. And somehow this girl survives, only to be attacked by a werewolf waiting below. Because, they're like, oh, what did you throw out the window for me? Let me see what you got here. And then she's captured by Maliva, Queen of the Gypsies, and her sons Torque and Bela. And Erica turns into a werewolf. This flipped me out as a kid. Like, there can be a female werewolf? Remember, this is before Wolfen. I was like, what? No way. And poor pretty Erica now, she was more feral and wolf-like looking. If you could ever find an image of it, look at it. It's frightening. Neil Adams did a superb job. Make her into this massive, muscular werewolf. And I'm like, oh my God. I thought, well, it really had an effect on me. I'm like, there could be female werewolves? It was like, what? And so then I thought, well, let me make a heroic werewolf. And Wolfra was born from there. I think I originally had something, oh boy. I maybe approached this later when I was a teen. Hormones raging. That this girl hooks up with a guy, not knowing he's a werewolf in his human form. They're making out and getting it on, and then he spreads his wolf's bane into her, and then she turns into a werewolf. Now, I don't know if I'm still going to have Wolfra be able to turn back and forth to human form. She is going to be in Fight to Save the Universe. She's in this section from my dinner show, Homecoming at Transylvania High. Many of you might know about that. And I'm actually going to use that universe for her to jump into. Actually, let's see her without the pencil underneath. Not bad. This is the green pencil. Now, let's start inking. Have my vector layer ready to go. I'm putting my G pen up to a brush size of 6. And getting in here to start her head, as always. I always like to start with the head. So, I'm keeping this general shape. I wanted to have her being kind of fun and playful. Not scary. I don't really want scary. She can hold her own. She's a werewolf. But as I'm writing this into, like, okay, I have Wolfra. What do I do with her? What am I gonna... Like I said before, first she was only a girl who got it on with a guy who turned into a werewolf. Well, where can we... How does that expand into a story? You gotta think of these things. What is her why? What's her motivation? And I wrote some kind of backstory where she comes from a planet called Lycanthria. Get it? Lycans? A planet full of werewolves. And she does her good deeds or whatever, because there would be no reason for her to wind up with the fight to save the universe crowd unless she is good. And she joins that. I kind of just do this one eyelash just for guidance. Just to give me a guide of where I want the eyelashes to fall eventually. So instead of doing these bangs, we just, now the ears on top are a little more pointy. They look kind of pizza shaped. That's what I've seen in a lot of werewolf movies. And I'm like, okay, I'll stick with that. It looks more like him. And then with her, I wanted to have something coming from the front. A little bit of hair in the front, and then almost like it comes back, and then there's this ponytail with more hair. Because I drew originally with a ponytail, a wolfy tail, ponytail. But I do want it to have long hair. Doesn't have to be super long, just could stop there. I don't want it to be too similar to my lioness character. I'll have to draw her for you at another time. But I think I was trying to pose with her like crouching, and it just seemed too much. I'll just have her like posing on a rock. Like she's about to howl at the moon. Does she howl? It could happen. It could. Let's just play around with these claws. This I will change later. This finger looks cool at first, but I don't think it would bend that way. Maybe if she's transforming. But that again, she's always in wolf form. Right? Maybe. So I was debating about, she winds up at Van Helsing High School dancing to the beat, baby. And she's with two others from the Fight to Save the Universe crew, winding up with my characters like Francine, Frankie, Wolfman Jack, Rufus, Bloody Mary. And she suspects some of the wolf guys are up to no good because they aren't. She's not digging their company. You'd think she would be okay with her own kind, but she can sniff out ne'er-do-wells. She can sniff out the bad element. Her costume was more, it was kind of like this. I think I had a belt, but it was kind of like a sports bra top, but like more like I would say more like a one-piece bathing suit. Just like it is now, but I added like a little shoulder thing later on with this. To just give it a little more of something. But yeah, still keep the one-piece thing going on. Gotta show off the furry legs. They're all our guidelines. It's coming along okay. It takes a few passes. That's the way it is. We get there. There we go. And just that there. And here's when I decide to add this extra thing over her shoulder, just to give her a little something. Because this girl loves to dance and bark at the moon. Let's get rid of the pencil underneath and see what she looks like. Pretty solid. Okay. I did some alterations, as you can see. I had to move, let's go to her face. Made the nose a little more pronounced. I kind of made her eyes more round, added eyelashes, because the other eyes were too feline. I didn't like that. And gave her nose a little more lupine shape. So rounded things off a little better, as you can see. Fixed her hands a little bit. Yeah, see? Hands are a little better, or claws, I should say. So that has been fixed. I added the boulder, and I added a little bit of sky, some clouds, using the cloud tool, just as a gray color. And even a little La Luna, the moon, using a little blue brush and the dappling tool. So now we made our separate details layer. And G-Pen is set to about 3. It's really good for the details. I'm adding just a little more fur, hair. Here. It's not a mullet. It's not a mohawk either. It's just the way her hair is. She's got ears. I love playing with the hair, just kind of figuring out where it lies, and how it falls, and cascades down. Just those fun hair layers. You don't have to go too crazy. You want to add more details, you can. It's not necessary. The neck, did that, and I just pressed a little harder for that side. And then let up a little bit. Some of that. I'm going to add a little darkness there. These little things just give the drawing a little more dimension, so it's just not this flat piece sitting out in space. I was debating about just adding a little bit of that, a hint to her side of her face. After that, just had a little bit of darkness where her chin would be reaching her hair, because that's what happened. It'd be a little blacked out. It's good. A little bit on the nose. I was like, yeah, we'll add it this way. Just a little bit there. Bang. Yeah, no details. I don't want to give her whiskers or anything like that. It just gets rid of the feminine mystique. I'm just adding a little bit. I had to redo it. I wasn't too happy the way it was hitting there. A little better. Little things. And again, you don't have to be as nitpicky as me. You're more than welcome to try. This is your drawing too. Make it how you feel. And we're here to have a good time. Enjoy the drawing process. When I'm not recording, I am sometimes frustrated and screaming at the screen. Only because some things aren't lining up. In the digital world, things get really weird. Lines don't want to cooperate. You accidentally press a key for reverse or erase instead of hitting a pen. Frustrating. And even when you're fixing stuff, it just doesn't seem right. So I want to add a little bit of shade for her claws, fingers. Erase that. It just didn't look right. I'll come back to it later, just adding her shading in her bosoms. And her ribcage. Underneath, I kind of stopped there. A little bit of the hint there of the pelvic area. I was feeling a little bit of like a John Byrne thing here. I know John Byrne, artist of many comic books, most notable for Fantastic Four, did this thing around the women's pelvis area. This kind of circular thing. I was feeling it for Wolfra. Just a little bit on the edges there. Hint there. And I started adding this, and I stopped, like realizing, you know what? I'm gonna erase this and start over again and put it on another layer. It's just better that way. So if it's going into her shoulder lines, at least I can erase it separately, and it won't affect it. This is also the same layer that has the boulder she's leaning on. There's. And back to the regular details layer, some shading for her shoulder area. There. You kind of get a feel of this, just a little bit of that. You don't need a lot. Female characters don't require a lot of great details. And some guys can get away with it. They really know where the light's coming from. Of course, they're doing a lot more than me. Like Jim Lee, Red Bands, or even Eleuterio Sapieri. But we're not going there. Still having fun. Wanted to add a little more shading there. It's going to be, yeah, add a little bit of a line there. So we just accent that part of the chest. Even adding a little extra line there. Just thinking of shading. We keep it simple. I mean, you may say, this is simple? Yeah, for me it is. But it gets complicated, but still, I don't want to compare myself to people like Jim Lee or other incredibly talented artists, but it's hard not to. But they're so good at what they do, and I'm good enough. I enjoy what I'm doing. You just get in the rock. I mean, it looks more like she's leaning on broccoli or something, but I also wanted to add some of the good old airbrush in between her fingers to add some shadow. I was thinking of doing it with the G pen, but you know what? I said, for this, I just want to add some shadow with the air hose. It just gives it a little nice texture, and especially on hands resting on the rock. You could make it larger and smaller, and just nice to get in there. So, yeah, added a little more of a crack. There's a crack tool that I added to the rocks, and adds these little cracks, makes it look a little more rocky. And then, of course, we added our clouds back in again. And I added these lines on her shoulders, as you can see, just to give the outfit a little more something else. And by her hip. I was thinking of adding more lines, but you know what? I'll just keep it like that as I thicken the lines. Make them thicker. Got to do the thickening part. I think it looks good. It just adds something. It's just not going to be this boring bodysuit. Can't have that. Thickening in the details too. I think she came out pretty nice. She's not part of the Mighty Monsters, but maybe she'll have a crossover. You never know. They do have a werewolf in their company. I'm going to draw him soon. It's a guy. Here we have Wolfra. So yeah, she still looks like him, but not too like him. Not too ferocious, but cute. She's relatable. And one other thing, I should darken her eyes. So yeah, do the fill tool on a separate layer there. Has to always be a raster layer. And get the airbrush to add a little highlight. And voila! There is Wolfra for you, leaning on a rock, ready to howl at the moon. Or not. But there she is. I hope it was fun drawing Wolfra. Thanks for joining me, and as always, you could like and subscribe. Check out my other drawing videos on the artist always known as Alejandro. And I will see you soon on the next sketch video. Until then, keep creating.